Hello, my little buzzlings, and welcome to The Tea with B, a podcast where you spill the tea on anything to be featured on the show. Share your ups, downs, and everything in between because the sweet is never sweet without the sour. So, let's talk. Contact us on both Twitter and Instagram at The Tea with B. Fame. Do you want it? To be noticed, to be wanted, to be loved, and your name in lights. It all sounds so appeasing, doesn't it? Well, chances are all of us have fantasized about being famous in one way or another. It's an inevitable part of our human nature. But while the desire may have always been there, being famous has changed because it's no longer reserved for the Hollywood's elite and gatekeepers. In today's social media world, more people than ever are getting clout just for being themselves. Social media has opened us up to seeing more than ever and has given rise to influencers who are modern celebrities. Love them or be jealous of them, influencers showcase a lifestyle that all of us aspire to, but who is brave enough to chase fame when there seems to be so many others vying after it? On today's show, we are talking to the beautiful and smart Addie Case. Addie Case is a successful civil engineer who had seemingly a normal childhood as a horse girl in the South. She recently moved to her dream city of Manhattan and has a little dog named Fifo. And most importantly, she dreams of making it big. Welcome, Addie.
Hey, B. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's get into it. What attracts you to fame?
Well, I do really like attention. When I was little, I thought I was little orphan Annie, and I would perform a concert anytime someone came into my house. My mom would play Annie songs on the piano, and when my mom asked me one year if I was gonna dress up as Annie for Halloween, I said, you have to dress up as someone that you're not for Halloween. So always just kind of been a little bit of an attention whore. And yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you feel like you didn't get enough attention? I mean, it sounds like your parents kind of praised you.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I got probably a lot of attention growing up. That's a good question. Maybe it's just never been enough. You know, the whole world knows my name. I guess it won't be enough. Who knows?
Okay, well, let's get into it. In terms of you desire fame, but you also look up to famous people and influencers. You have a bit of a separation. So talk about that. Like, what is it about that lifestyle, or what part of it really makes you want it?
I like the creative aspect of it. I think that it's really cool how in today's society you have, the influencer kind of deciding not necessarily what the trends are, but once you reach a certain status, you're able to push products, ideas, clothings out to the masses. And I mean, it's, as the name says, you're kind of influential. I personally am obsessed with like reality TV stars, like the Real Housewives and like those kind of people, which I will never be that kind of famous. So I think
that's what you want? Is that what you aspire to?
I don't think I'm really dramatic enough. Like you have to be pretty wild and like, yeah, they're a little richer, a little wilder. They're all married to men. There's no gay housewives. So it's not really on brand for me or for Bravo. So
at the start, I kind of mentioned how the idea of fame is changing. And you just mentioned that you don't really aspire to the typical, the Hollywood elites that are on the red carpet. You love the reality TV aspect of it more. So what draws you to that aspect? You said you don't have the drama personality to pursue it, but do you like to see others living in drama?
I like a little bit of drama in my life or around me. I'm just not necessarily like a whole production of drama. And I think, at least for me, and like fame is so relative, right? Like if I saw Erica Jane walking down the street, I would literally shit myself. I would lose my whole mind. My mom would have no idea who Erica Jane is. And that's just kind of how it works, right? Like
I also
younger
don't know who
kids,
Erica Jane is.
real, real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So it's all relative. And I think a big part of it is too, like, at least for the housewives and also for TikTok, they're on my screen every day. The housewives are on my screen every week. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are coming out with a movie maybe once every couple of years. So to me, they don't do enough for me. If I was, they would never entertain me enough like that, reality shows do, or like TikTok people do.
Absolutely. And let's get into TikTok. I mean, I've mentioned a million times how much I love it. I've seen your content, and we'll make sure to have all of Addie's handles in the bio. But talk about TikTok, and in terms of gaining your followers, gaining influence through that, how that's a tool. And it's a tool that not a lot of people, and not to be ageist, but most people over a certain age have no idea how to use it. They love making fun of it, but they have no idea how to use TikTok, how people become famous on TikTok, and the work that really has to go into creating those. Talk about how much work you have to put into recording, editing, and let's talk to the whole process.
So just kind of going back on something you said, my dad, for example, he'll be 79 in, I think he'll be 79. Yeah, he'll be 79 in May. And I got him on TikTok during COVID when I was living with my parents for a couple of months because Nashville was shut down. And so I got him hooked on New York and Beverly Hills Housewives and TikTok. So when I'm staying with them and I go into the kitchen in the mornings, I'll see him just like giggling to himself, scrolling through TikToks. And so he loves TikTok, but he also doesn't understand how it works. So when I'm filming this content, or I'm making videos that take up a lot of time, you have to find.
Give an estimate, because I don't think people realize how many hours you spend a week in terms of recording and editing.
So I usually set aside one day for filming content, like just one day of filming, and just kind of depending on, like, a lot of my videos and a lot of trending sounds that I use are lip syncing. So it's number one, and I'm such a perfectionist. So like if the original sound clears their throat or has a breath you can hear or swallows, but like I'm going to have that right on point. And so I'm going to perfect it. So that takes a little bit of time. Sometimes in the shower, if I know like it's a recording day or something, or if I see a cool trend I know I want to do, I'll start practicing in the shower. I'll start practicing beforehand. But if I'm blankly starting, those videos, I would say recording 4 or 5, 6 in a row, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. What takes forever are transition videos where you have to move your hand or kick your leg in the same exact spot as your next outfit, like whatever you're transitioning into. You have to line it up perfectly, and you have to make sure your phone is the exact distance and angle from you as your original shot was. And sometimes you're filming an original shot when you first wake up in the morning because you want to look like shit, and then you want to have like this dramatic, like cool, transition. So it's hard for me to remember. Even watching a video back, it's hard for me to see where my phone positioning was. And again, I'm sure I could make content a lot quicker and a lot more content if I was not such a perfectionist, but unfortunately I am. So it takes me a little too long, probably.
It does take a lot of time and effort. So one thing you mentioned is trending sounds and using things like that. Talk about what that means, because I don't think that most people even realize what that means. And that's an extra bit of work that you have to put into your content to make sure that it gets, distributed and goes viral or whatever it is.
So like most things in life, and I'm trying to be better about getting on trends, not TikTok trends in general, before everyone has already discovered it. Like if I was smart, I would have been researching this TikTok stuff back during COVID when I was swiping all day long, but I wasn't making any content. So now, because everyone knows about it, and people are estimating that TikTok is going to be what it is for another 18 months maximum. So thankfully now, because, well, not thankfully, but because I'm lazy, thankfully, there are content creators whose job and whose niche is to find trending sounds. And so I follow a lot of those people that will say, here's a trending sound. And you can't just use any trending sound. There's a lot of parameters. So your ideal trending sound has between 500 and 5,000 videos that have already used the sound. A lot of these trend setter, trend finder content creators will push out sounds that have 200,000, 300,000 videos. And by that point, the market's oversaturated, just like trending hashtags, just like hashtag FYP. So you really kind of have to go through and actually just the other day, I had a sound save that I was excited to do, and I went back and checked it again before I spent time recording, and it had already gone up to like 25,000 uses. So a big thing in TikTok growth is using trending sounds and applying them to your niche. So my niche is lesbian, kind of pretty feminine, but also wears boy clothes.
The balance between masc and femme.
Yes. So yeah, that's kind of my niche, along with having very toxic previous relationships, being attracted to older women that look like me. So I've kind of just gone off of like past experiences and embellished them a bit. But that's kind of my niche, right? So a lot of times my dog Fievel does really cute stuff, or my dad says really funny shit, and I'd love to post them. And I think they would probably go viral if, the cards were right, but that's not on brand for me. So by me doing, and that sounds silly, and I always jokingly say like, that's not on brand for me, but literally once you are in a niche and you have a following that is based on that niche, you can't really just post random stuff unless you're trying to branch out and create a new niche, which I'm not, because this is kind of where I thrive. So yeah, unfortunately, it kind of restricts you in terms of like creativity and things you can do. There's a rumor going on right now in the creator world that TikTok, the algorithm is going to be pushing out original sound, like you talking or talking directly to the camera. So not lip syncing, not necessarily using the trending sounds. So we'll see, but word on the street is they are looking for original, fresh content, and that's what they're going to be pushing out. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to go back to your idea of it's not on brand. And I get kind of, a lot of people may laugh at that because, it's a thing when it comes to social media and talking about on brand, but at the same time, I mean, this is all sales and marketing. This is what we have to do when it comes to business, when we have to sell ourselves. When we go for an interview, we are selling ourselves. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being on brand, but I didn't know that was something that was even a thing, that kind of a niche where you have to be on brand and you can't post other content. That's very, very interesting. I didn't know that was even a thing. Now let's go back to, you've mentioned a few times, but your sexuality, and that's your niche, is kind of in that lesbian TikTok world, the pretty girl kind of niche. So let's talk about your sexuality. You're very open about it, but let's get into when you found out you were gay and how that went. How did your family react and how it influenced you?
So hindsight is 2020, I guess. And I remember I had to have been in second or third grade. Shout out to Lisa Rayner. You were my first and you will forever be my woman crush. Lisa Rayner was my camp counselor at day camp. And I was so obsessed with this lady. I would make my mom drive by her house every day on our way home from wherever we were going. She also, like, one of her daughters is gay. Super great style, super cool. And I remember Lisa Rayner's kids, they had, I think, like NSYNC or some popular sound, and like they just had the coolest message recorder. So I would call their house every day. I would probably leave messages most of the time, but so that was my first recollection of just like being obsessed with this lady, right? And like throughout high school, I had what you would call like heroes or idols, right? I was just obsessed with these girls. And I thought it was because like, well, they were all like either super good athletes or, super cool or whatever, pretty. And I thought it was more of like me aspiring to be like them. Looking back on it, it was definitely a crush. And so I realized that I was gay when I was 19 or 20, I guess. And it was really after someone accused me of being gay and I was very defensive about it. I was like, I am not fucking gay. Like, especially being from Mississippi, like, I happen to come from parents who are very liberal, but that's obviously not the norm for down here. And I had no kind of gay influences or role models to look up to other than like the very obviously gay butch lesbian in cargo shorts and a polo. I didn't really know any lesbians, so I didn't even think that was an option. And it wasn't until I was trying to defend my straightness that I realized I was gay. And so once I realized it, I never dated guys since, and I have been girl crazy ever since then, if not before. Since second grade, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to get into the girl crazy part a little bit later, but we're going to continue on this. In terms of 19, that's a pretty young age. You said that your parents are both very blue and they took it pretty well, but how did the rest of the people in your town, around you, your siblings, what was their reception to you coming out?
So I actually got outed. I came out to my mom and my parents first, and my dad told me, well, I just want you to know that I'm straight. And my mom said, are you sure you're just not a slut? She was joking, but I got outed to my friends sometime later because I had this girlfriend and I was on Facebook. I was friends with her family and her friends and her or whatever. So we had this picture, like any coupley pictures of us, I would custom who could see it. I would customize who could see the picture. And I would make it so that it was hidden to everyone except for her family and friends, basically. And I, to this day, do not know who it was that got on my Facebook. I don't know who it could have been, but someone got on my Facebook and they made a picture of me and this girl kissing public. And I got a phone call from my best friend's mom, who was also my best friend, basically saying like, do you have something you need to tell us? So that's when I got on there, realized it had been made public, and like just quickly deleted it, right? So immediately I have to go tell my 3 best friends and my best friend, who's also my best friend's mom, that I'm a lesbian. So I basically sat them all down. I'm not going to name any names, but when I finished, the ugliest one in the group said, well, I mean, like, it's just kind of weird, right? Like, are you looking at us when we're changing clothes or like in the shower? And I very quickly said, do not flatter yourself, sweetheart. I'm not looking at you. But that was kind of the overall response. It kind of, again, there were no gay people really for us to relate to or to compare me to, but also the fact that I was, tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, not
really
butchy.
Fit the usual look of what people assume to be a lesbian.
Fucking hate that. Hate when people say, well, you don't look like lesbian. Well, I don't think it looks any type of way, but I also do know that like pretty privilege exists, and that it's obviously a lot easier for my newly gay girlfriends or girls that maybe have not told their families they're gay to introduce me rather than some undercut, short-haired, butchy girl, right? It's unfair, but it's true. So I think that probably helped a lot. And it just kind of took some getting used to, eventually. I know my little brother, he said, my mom told him, and he said, is there anything else she can do to embarrass me? But now Houston and I go to bars together, and like, if I find out a girl is like too straight, I'll introduce her to him, and now it's great. But it just took a little bit of getting used to, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And do you still get that comment where when people find out that you are gay, that they're assuming you're trying to hit on them? Is that a constant battle?
I've made a few TikToks about it, like saying that, yes, when you tell a straight girl you're gay, like, I have not heard that since in a really long time, but either it does happen a lot because a lot of lesbian content creators are making videos about it, or they're also remembering back in the day when they would get those kind of comments.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the fame. So one of the things that is very highly linked in a lot of with the external need to be validated and to have attention, it also comes related with narcissists. Now, I'm not calling necessarily you and our specific, but what is your answer to that? Desire for fame comes with a narcissistic trait.
I think that everyone to some degree has narcissistic traits, right? I personally have at least 2 of the boxes checked when it comes to being a narcissist. The only difference being I have empathy, and maybe that's it. That's the only thing that separates me from beasts. But yeah, I mean, I think I think also narcissist and narcissistic and narcissism, kind of like buzzwords, like bipolar. People use bipolar to describe someone as like, oh, well, they're nice one minute, mean the next. It's so overused and incorrectly used. So let's go back before everyone thought narcissistic was a cool thing to say. And we'll say that vanity plays a big part in fame or, wanting attention. And what's kind of a contradiction with me, at least, is I get very embarrassed with compliments. So like, I love attention, but like, I'm so awkward. Like, I cannot receive a compliment. I cannot give a compliment. So it's very contradicting, but who knows?
How do you react when people slide in your DMs to compliment you or do something like that?
I feel like that's different. It's almost easier to accept whenever it's not in person, maybe. Yeah. Sliding in DMs, that's not really a huge
that may be a part of fame that you like, where you get the compliments through a different platform where it feels a little bit more valid or heard by you.
Sure. So, yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention also, when it comes to that study, it said that there was 3 traits, and that was narcissism, self-esteem, and as well as the brain chemistry of disclosure. Now, what this is there is literally chemicals in your brain that will release when you're sharing information about yourself that release dopamine in your brain. Now, I wanted to bring this up because I want to get into some brain chemistry. Now, this is clearly a study that talks about fame and desire for it. But one thing it doesn't really include is people who are neurodivergent, whose brain works a little bit different. You are a person with autism. So that automatically makes you neurodivergent. Talk about being a person with autism, what that's like, and how you perceive the world may be a little bit different compared to others. And also quickly to start out, go into how you found out and how you noticed that you have autism.
So I am very high functioning, and also I'm naturally high functioning on the spectrum.
There's a spectrum.
Yes. I feel like, especially with girls, they are not diagnosed like young boys are, because historically young girls do not have the behavioral problems of young boys. And so that is the reason that people even diagnose or get someone evaluated for autism. So that's just a number one. Number two, I've spent my entire life, another buzzword, masking autism. So I taught myself how to make eye contact. I taught myself how to not keep creepy eye contact, because you can't just look into people's eyes, right? Like social norms say you have to look around the face and, different things like that. So I taught myself those things. I taught myself to not rock back and forth in public, because that's kind of weird. Anytime I tell someone that I'm a person with autism, they're like, oh, I don't think so. Your diagnosis is wrong. Well, unlike people who go to a doctor for diagnosis, anyone can go to a doctor and get diagnosed for anything that does not have an actual test, a scan, which actually they are saying over in the UK, they have had some studies where they do a brain scan and they can tell that you may be a person with autism. But same with ADD, same with whatever. You can go to a doctor if for some reason you want a weird diagnosis, which, I mean, for ADD, obviously you want to get put on amphetamines, right? You can make someone believe anything. I did this purely on my own. I researched it. I read through studies, really looked into it because I know myself better than anyone else knows me. So it's almost kind of annoying whenever I say anything about being autistic. Like one of my friend's moms, especially, she was like, I don't think you're autistic. That doctor was wrong. And I was like, well, it's Dr. Addie, but it's just annoying that also I have spent most of my life trying to not do weird things like the eye contact thing, and then for that to be portrayed as being neurotypical.
I love how you said, and I think that's so important to bring up again, the fact that you had someone that you knew who were questioning whether or not you're on the spectrum based on their opinion. Now, that's something that bothers me, and you brought it up, and I love that you did, is the fact that girls are less likely to get diagnosed with autism and ADHD and every other, behavioral problem that they may have because they're girls and they're ignored. But I love that you brought that up, and honestly, shame on anyone who is trying to, force their opinions on who you are. Autism is a spectrum, and there's different things that'll affect you. Let's talk about while you do have a desire for fame, you are also very successful in your career. You did pursue a traditional kind of career path. You're an engineer, so you're, building roads and bridges, and honestly, I don't really know what engineers do, but talk about that and how you're actually really good at school despite being a person with autism. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I guess my opinion of people with autism was always kind of warped because I would see the autistic kid who was shooting 3-point shots from the NBA line, sinking every single one of them. I was seeing literal Rain Man, counting cards. And so I've always related autism, which again, there are people that are way further down the spectrum than I am, very monotone. And I know that they do have learning disabilities, but in my mind, it was always kind of associated with they almost have superpower, right? So I was also not diagnosed with ADHD because even though when I was younger, getting tested for this gifted program, when I was in school, you had your regular classes, but starting in first or second grade, the smartest kids in the class would get pulled out of regular class and go to a special class, where they would teach us how to play chess, or you would work on mind word problems. And it was basically so that you could reach your full educational potential, whereas in the regular classroom, they have to keep it on an even playing field so that everyone can learn at the same pace, right? So when I was originally tested, it was called Quest. And when I was originally tested for Quest, I did not pass. I was a couple of points, I want to say 1 or 2 points shy, however they tested it. And the tester either told my mom that she, in her opinion, I was either ADHD or autistic. I can't remember which one. It was one of the two. And my mom is like, my child's a genius. There's nothing wrong with my child. Test her again. And so I got in and I got tested again and I got in. Well, come to find out, I do have ADD. So until 11th grade, I could could care less about school, right? I was bored. I would sleep. I was kind of a B student, some A's. And then the summer before my junior year, I got evaluated for ADD and got medicated. And the first semester of medication, my lowest grade was in chemistry, and it was a 99 point something. So kind of Limitless, the movie, right? Finally, everything was making sense. So once that happened, I really started caring about school more. I was on the academic team. So I feel like my academics really took off once I got medicated.
Mm-hmm. So. Now, I know you did have a little rough patch in your life, but after that, you kind of went back on track. You got your degree and you started your career. So talk about how hard you work to get yourself back on track and make sure that you got your degree. And even though you aspire for fame, you still always making sure that you have kind of that backbone and you have that career to fall back on.
Yeah, so the summer before my senior year, I had a wisdom teeth surgery and I was prescribed 60 Percocet 10s, which for anyone who knows anything about prescription medication, they give that to cancer patients a lot. Like now today, obviously they give you Tylenol or something when you get your wisdom teeth taken out. Back then, no one knew that there was going to be an opioid epidemic and all this, that, and the other. So I proceeded to take those pills and other pills that I could find for the next 4 years. I ended up having to drop out of college, eventually got sober when I was 21, which is kind of sad. I turned 21. I got sober 2 months later, but I had fun in December and January though. So I got sober and it took me a minute to rebuild. So you don't, as a newly sober person, go right back to school. So I had to kind of get my footing in the real world again and figure out what I wanted to do. And originally I was in school as a biology and chemistry double major to go to med school. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't need a backup plan. I knew I was going to med school. So once I had that setback, it made me reevaluate a lot of things. And I realized that I did not want to dedicate that much of my life going to school. And I just wasn't passionate about it anymore, or if I ever was. It just was kind of the idea of it. But I knew I was good at science. I knew I was good at physics. And I knew I was good at math. So when you Google those things, engineer is a big word that comes up. So it's not like that was a foreign concept to me. I just did not realize that while I was killing myself to major in one of the hardest majors ever, that I was going to get out of school and make peanuts in comparison to some of these marketing majors who we made fun of. They were walking around campus with poster boards. Like, thankfully, it does work a little bit that way because I've learned the social media form of marketing. And kind of going back to the influencer thing, when you start researching things like drop shipping, or you maybe want to look into starting an online business, also the market is so saturated, but they tell you, like, start posting about it on social media. Like, that is your biggest free platform. Like, you don't have to buy ads on social media, you promoting it, and it's a long game thing. So back to the point, I realized that I wanted to be an engineer. So I went back to school, and of course none of my biology or chemistry classes, other than like English, counted towards my major, but busted my ass, finished in 3 years. At this point I was in Nashville, and that's when my professional career began. So I've always, because engineers my age are professional engineers and a lot further along in their career than I am. I won't be a professional engineer until about this time next year. So for a while, I've kind of had a chip on my shoulder and felt like I needed to play catch up a little bit. And I am not going to be satisfied until I have everything I want. So, and that's never going to come from just a one career source. So trying to diversify.
I love that. And I want to say thank you so much for being candid about your addiction in the past. Now, relating to that, I want to say, what was your motivation to go back to school after that tough period in your life? Like, there are so many options. You could have done really anything, education, college degree, 100% for it, but it's not as necessary in today's world. So what was that drive that you said to yourself, I'm getting this degree?
10 years ago, it was the only option. I mean, at least in my world. I mean,
very true.
Yeah, I mean, people didn't start becoming woke about college and the scam of the college tuition system until kind of recently. And, maybe the admission scandal helped a little bit. I don't really know, but Google and who offers stuff now? Apple, Google, they didn't offer those free classes back then, right? Or I would have gotten a Google certification in programming. I still might. Shit. I mean, they're making more with a certificate than I'm making with a degree. So, but back then that was an option. I was brainwashed into thinking, but I I wasn't going to get caught up in the scam that is tuition. So I was in Nashville. I applied to the 3 schools that had a civil engineering program. I was waitlisted at one, later accepted, and accepted at the other 2. While I was waitlisted at Vandy, I was researching tuition costs. So Vandy was going to be about $200,000. Lipscomb was going to be right around there, maybe a little less. Tennessee State University, I was going to have to take out a $3,500 loan to get my degree, period. I ended up not even having to take that out because I got so many scholarships. So once I got accepted to Vandy, I had already decided that a piece of paper wasn't worth $250,000. And so I got my degree from the cheapest possible option. And I can assure you I've never had a problem getting a job. And so
nobody ever does, because I totally agree with you. It's nobody can see my reaction, but damn, when you said that number, proponent to education, but figure out the right education for you. But you're right. 10 years ago, that was really the only option that most of us had, is you had to do the regular route. Now, you mentioned that you were in Nashville at this time. So let's get into the girls. How'd you get into Nashville? Let's start with that.
You're asking that like you know the answer, B. But
what? No.
So I met a girl while I was in Mississippi on Tinder, I believe, and we did not like each other when we met each other. We were kind of a grower. You know, they say guys are a grower, a shower. We were a grower. We weren't a shower, and should have never forced ourselves to like each other because polar opposites. She did not think I was funny. I'm fucking hilarious. So horrible sense of humor, just all around, you know, bad. We were bad together, right? But she was going to move to Nashville in a year from then because she already had a job. She just was waiting to take her CPA exam. She was an accountant, as if that was not enough of a red flag. So she gets a call. They want her to come to Nashville early. And they want her to start immediately. And we had been together for 2 months, I think. And she was like, she gave me, for my birthday that year, she gave me a key to our new apartment. So, and again, I never planned on staying in Mississippi for long, but you've got me not fresh out of rehab, but, you know, starting just to get my life on track. I went back to school that semester. So I was slowly getting back on track, but I was never planning on staying here for long. I've always wanted to be in New York City, but hey, Nashville, good little pit stop. It was a big city compared to where I was from. I grew up in a town of a population of 12,000. So that was big city life for me, you know. So it got me out of Mississippi. Obviously that relationship crashed and burned.
But you still moved after 2 months of growing on each other. You still moved.
I was ready to get the hell out of here too. You know, it was an adventure. You know, why not? So yeah.
Tell me which other adventures you have gone on with women.
Well, I was kicked out of a rehab for fraternizing with a woman because I couldn't wait 4 days to be with her in the free world. I had to begin this relationship in rehab because I was in love with her. We were getting married. I'd already named our kids. You couldn't tell me any different. Yeah, we know each other about 5 minutes. You couldn't tell me any different. So that was not good. Then I did move after 2 months of being with someone. But yeah, I guess that's my only.
You're pretty girl crazy in general. Would you describe yourself as girl crazy?
Yeah. I like girls. I'm always excited about pretty girls in general. You know, TikTok is just better. I mean, I've deleted my dating apps, not because I think I'm going to meet my soulmate on TikTok, but just because I was like, had just gotten out of a very like toxic, horrible situationship. And I was not excited about dating anyone. I was not carrying on conversations with people. I wasn't checking the apps. And I didn't want to be one of those people that just like lingers on the apps forever and like everyone notices that you've been on there for a while. So I just made a clean break a couple months ago. But TikTok, you know, it's like a dating app without borders, right? Like I have a friend.
You've gone out with influencers, have you not?
Yeah, but I actually met them on dating apps. That is happening all the time on TikTok. Like you're seeing lesbians move. You're seeing lesbians move from freaking Wyoming or California, all, you know, across the country to be with someone they met on TikTok. And I love it because, on dating apps, you are restricted to whatever that radius is. But other than that, you're just relying on like the grace of strangers and like hopefully good tourists coming through, or maybe somebody's newly single, or, you're just relying on the pool that the city you're in has to offer. TikTok doesn't restrict you like that. So.
And I have seen those TikTok couples, man, they're the cutest when it comes to like their meet and cute story, whatever. It's unbelievable. Love makes us do crazy things. And yes, I totally agree when it comes to that.
TikTok love makes you do crazy things too. Because like every once in a while, I don't know how they end up on my page, but some straight couples will be on my page. Let's get this garbage out of here. I'll swipe up real quick. But there was one girl who was flying, to a different country to be with some guy she met. And I mean, it's been happening on 90 Day Fiance for years, but TikTok has just made it more widely available and accepted to people that are on TikTok. But like, if you ask someone, your parent or something, like you're meeting on the online chat rooms, they do not approve.
Exactly. So as I mentioned at the very start, my last thing is, so you're finally in your dream city, you're in New York. It has been your goal for, pretty much all your life. How is it like to finally move to your dream city? And is it everything you always wanted?
It is. Yes and no. So when you visit New York, there is an energy of the city that, has the potential to keep you up all night if that's what you want. It's just the greatest place on earth. It's still the greatest place on earth when you live there, but when you live there, it's your everyday life. It's not like a fun vacation or whatever. So there's not like the crazy energy that I remember as a visitor, but there's a different energy in knowing that everything that's happening is happening in New York first. It's the center of the universe. I don't care what anyone says. If it's happening, it's happening there. And everyone that lives there, everyone that's even if they don't live there, if they're living outside of New York because they can't afford the ridiculous fucking prices of Manhattan, but they're grinding, coming to the city every day, or they're visiting, pitching ideas to investors. Like everyone in that city's hustling. Everyone in that city has an idea, and it's palpable, really. So I knew it was going to be really expensive. It's even more expensive than I thought, because like New York City taxes are a bitch. Another reason for like my desire for supplemental income, and passive income is because taxes are just ridiculous. But yeah, it's the greatest place on earth. I'm there. I negotiated another year in my lease, so I'm treading water for at least another year, and I'll be there for as long as I can afford to be there. But when I can't afford to live in Manhattan, I'll be moving back down south to like a Nashville, to an Atlanta, somewhere closer to home, because I don't love the North that much. No offense to y'all Yankees up there, but yeah, don't love it that much. If I'm not in New York City, I'm not up there at all. So,
well, New York City, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Well, Addie, this has been absolutely amazing. Before I go, of course, where can people find you? Where do you want them to find you?
I'm everywhere as Addie.case, ADDIE.CASE.
Perfect. And I will have all of Addie's information in the episode. Addie, thank you so much for being a guest on The Tea with B. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And a very big thank you to you for tuning to this episode of The Tea with B podcast. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Tea with B. And until next time, little buzzlings,